Rachel from Green Zebra Markets here. I just wanted to put a quick mention that our first week at the Musqueam Reserve near Point Grey will be this week. We're going to be there every Thursday from 3 to 6 p.m. at 6735 Salish Drive in front of the community center, so we're very excited to start that. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about a question that a fair amount of people have asked me, and that is, what exactly is organic, and how do you know a product is organic? And is there any difference between being labeled organic and being labeled GMO free? GMO, if you don't already know, stands for genetically modified organism, and to use the correct technical and scientific term, you would actually want to call these types of foods genetically engineered and not just genetically modified, because that means that it's been developed in the lab, and the most common method is to insert a gene from a completely different species that would never in nature breed with the plant into the species, often to confer pesticide or herbicide resistance to these plants. So that's kind of the basic definition of what a genetically engineered organism is. So how do you know that what you're buying or eating at the store is contains GMOs, or GEs for short, or not? Well, you can look for an independent certified product that will say GMO free. You want to be careful not to just rely on that specific brand's word that they are GMO or GE free. You want an independent body's certification, and if you're curious and if you've never bought that product before, you can always double check online when you see a little seal that says GMO free to make sure that that body is in fact legit. And it's pretty easy to do by Google these days, and you can often see other real people's feedback on that kind of certification process and pull up any related news articles, which can really help you there. Now, what that means is that that product is not necessarily grown organically. It just means that it is free of genetically modified organisms that are genetically engineered. So for people concerned about that and trying to avoid GE organisms, then they can look for that seal and be confident that they are avoiding these types of organisms. Now, a lot of products won't have this. Any kind of certification you get as a company takes a lot of money and manpower to do that. So smaller businesses might not have it. This is just starting to gain real tread, and companies are realizing that this is more and more important to consumers. So some of them are starting to get GMO-free certification, but a lot of them that might be GMO-free don't have it. And that's something to consider. It's not just because these companies are necessarily lazy or trying to hide something. It's because in the real world, it costs money to register with these independent organizations to verify that you are in fact GMO free, and it's a yearly fee you need to pay them because they need the money to pay their own employees' wages to go in and to check up on you and to make sure that you are in fact GMO free. And then you've got to fill out a lot of paperwork and different things, which is costing you your own staff time and hours, which you have to pay them for to be able to apply for and maintain this certification. That goes for organic certification as well. Now, if you don't see a GMO-free seal, that doesn't necessarily mean that the product contains GMOs. And what you can do as kind of a cheat sheet is you can go to some of the major nonprofits. You can just Google again GMO free, and they'll come up. There's a lot of consumer awareness projects going on. They can tell you what the common crops are that are in fact genetically modified, because a lot of people kind of wrongly assume that if it's not labeled GMO free, that like everything is GMO. But the reality is that approval has only been given for a select amount of crops that are GMO to be grown in the United States and to be grown in Canada and other parts of the world. And these lists are going to be different. So what is a GMO product typically in the States is not necessarily GMO in Canada, for example. An example of that would be squash, like yellow squash, that there is a genetically modified version that is commonly grown in the States. So if you are purchasing yellow squash in the States and it's not organic and you want to avoid GMO, I would just not purchase that squash basically, unless it is organic, if you care about avoiding GMO. In Canada, however, as long as it is grown in Canada, then you are safe to purchase that yellow squash product. If it is imported from the States, again, avoid it if you are trying to avoid GMOs. And what you will find, aside from the raw fruits and vegetables, GMOs can sneak into a lot of processed foods. And this is mostly in the soy and canola oils. It's a common ingredient in many baked and processed items. You'll be surprised to just read down the ingredient list of your favorite products, and sure enough, you will see soy or canola oil. Sugar, most sugar in processed snacks, again, unless it's certified organic, will be GMO. It's from beetroots, so it's genetically modified sugar beets, and they don't have to label it as sugar beets. It will just appear on the ingredient list as sugar and nothing else. So if it says sugar and it's not certified organic, then again, avoid that product if you are trying to avoid GMOs. If it says cane sugar, so far as I know to date, there is no genetically modified cane sugar available, and so you can be safe because it's not labeled as sugar beets or just general sugar. If it's labeled as cane sugar, then you're good to go. Now, so what does organic actually mean? So there is a set of guidelines and criteria that organic growers must adhere to obtain third-party independent review and approval that their product is not only GMO free, but is also grown according to a set of standards. If they are using any pesticides and herbicides, they must be organic approved. And that generally means, and I'm just saying generally here, I'm not saying in all cases, that the chemicals on that list tend to be less toxic and less harmful to human health if trace amounts do end up on your food even after washing and you were to ingest them. And they tend to have a hierarchy in pest and weed treatment, where you go from the least toxic method, and if that doesn't work, moving up to the more toxic methods. And then again, there are careful guidelines if you use these items about if you spray it with something, how soon after spraying you can harvest something. Sometimes they have a waiting period where the majority of the product will actually disperse in the air or be washed off due to rainfall, and then they can harvest the product after that date. And so it's pretty strict. That's what they have to go through. Some organic growers, especially if they're smaller farms, don't even spray anything, which is great. And so they use traditional methods of farming, crop rotation, paying attention to the health of the soil is really important. All of these things to ensure the health of their crops independent from chemical sprays that you will find in mainstream fruits and vegetables. The other thing with organic is that while not all products labeled GMO free are organic, all products labeled organic are GMO free. So that is a component of the organic certification. They are not allowed to use genetically engineered seeds or plants, and in fact they will test their crops to ensure that there is a very low level of contamination by GE foods. Now you might ask, why is there any contamination at all? That is because of pollen drift of neighboring farms, and this might be miles and miles away. You would be surprised the distances that the pollen can drift and end up contaminating these crops through no fault of the farmers themselves, of the organic farmers. And so some of these certification processes specify that you cannot have more than 1% contamination. Some products that you'll see on the shelf will be specifically labeled, and it'll say something like 80% organic. Now that could mean that by weight 80% of the ingredients are certified organic, and that could mean possibly that there is like a higher level of allowable contamination, probably more the former than the latter. And it's important to kind of like know the difference and know that if you buy organic, you can be confident that it is as close to GMO free as you can get in the real world. So that's important to know, and that's also again why you might see slightly higher prices on products that are certified organic or products that are certified GMO free, because it does cost extra money to go through these certification processes, and sometimes it costs extra money to grow those kind of crops. This isn't always going to be the case. The organic industry is fast catching up to the conventional farming industry for many reasons that I'll explain later in a series that I'm going to do specifically on genetically engineered organisms. And it's basically kind of leveling the playing field as much as possible so that the prices are becoming more and more similar between organic and conventionally produced items. Now, all of this won't replace the simple act of trying to get to know your farmer. So if you have a farmer's market that is near you, those farmers can tell you exactly how and where the crop was grown and what they spray on it, what they don't spray on it. Some don't spray anything, and they can give you all of that information. And so that's very important, because not all organic farmers are created equal. Because you want to really support farmers that have responsible farming methods. So healthy soil, crop rotation, fair treatment and pay of their workers, and also any potential like environmental mediation that they might be doing. Like I know that some farms, they specifically pay attention to pollinators and supporting the health of the pollinators in their area, because not only their farm but surrounding farms depend on the health of the pollinators. Especially, you might have heard of colony collapse disorder and the disappearance of honeybees, which are necessary for healthy crop growth. And they'll plant large areas of plants that are pollinator friendly to provide kind of mini sanctuaries for these pollinators to help minimize the effects that are causing and contributing to colony collapse disorder, which I think is really great to support the farms that are going the extra mile to do this. And moreover, just buying as local as possible is also really great to do. And that's just like another great reason why you should stop by Green Zebra Markets at one of our locations, because we source as local as possible. Most of our items are from the Fraser Valley, some from the Okanagan, and a few of them are from Washington State that aren't in season currently in the Vancouver area. And this will really continue to boost our local economy, and you'll get that extra freshness and great taste that you come to expect from BC products at our market, since the produce is traveling a shorter distance from farm to market to your table. So please come visit us every Wednesdays in Marpole from 3 to 7 p.m., 8680 Hudson Street, and our new location at the Musqueam Community Center, 6735 Salish Drive, every Thursday from 3 to 6 p.m. I hope to see you then.